Okay? This is not a Southern accent. I'm trying to be as Southerner as I can, living in North Carolina for I don't know how many years now, since 2004. And this sweet tea thing, I still don't get it. Okay, I just don't get it. It just doesn't work for me very well. It's way too sweet and it's way too cold. So those are two problems for me. But I learned how to say y'all, so I think I'm in good company, right? All right. So I think I'm good. I think I can fit in about in every place. Just don't bring the sweet tea out, because then I really hang out like a sore thumb. I just, it's not good. But I love living here, and I love seeing what God is doing in our lives and how he's using us. And I love looking back at my life and seeing how God is a God who can reach into the darkest places of our lives. And he can come in with his light and he can pull us out. And that's what he has done in my life. And that's what I would like to share with you about tonight. So just to make sure that you know what this accent is from, it's from Romania. So I am originally from Romania. I was born and raised in Romania. How many of you guys here in the front know where Romania is? Anybody? Oh, in the back too? Where is it? It's quite east. You are right. It's quite east. It's very East Europe, okay? Very, very East Europe. You kind of have to get on an airplane and go for about 16 hours, okay? So it's pretty far away. It is pretty far away. But if you know anything about Romania, you know that Romania was under communism for a very, very long time. And if you know anything about communism, and you guys are sure that you have learned from history lessons many things, but it's a very different thing to learn something from a history book and a completely different thing to live through it. And so when I was born, it was already communism in Romania. So that's the only thing that we knew. We didn't know anything better. And what communism meant was that we were not free to worship. We were not free to take our Bible in our hand if we even had one, because we were not allowed to have one. We could not walk down with the Bible on the street in our hands, because if we were to do that, we could be shot to death. If somebody was to see you with a Bible, you could be shot, and that was the end of the story. You couldn't go to church. You couldn't worship. And the reason for that was because the dictator, this guy who was running the country, his name was Ceausescu, just in case you are trying to recall in your history books what you have learned. He wanted to make sure that nobody would ever be put in higher authority than himself, not even God. And that was the reason why he did not allow church. The only churches that were allowed were the churches that were very controlled by the dictator himself, and they were spiritually dead churches. Unfortunately, we still have those around. But that was all we had in Romania. Now, not just that, but also it was controlled what we were eating, what we were wearing, okay? You couldn't just go to a grocery store and buy whatever you wanted. Grocery stores had absolutely nothing in communism. Pretty much the only thing that you could find in grocery stores was just shelves and shelves and shelves of books. And those books went on the people who belonged to that grocery store. You could not just go to any grocery store. You had to go to the grocery store you belonged to by your address. And any time there was something after singing a long, long line, and whatever you got, you had to sign the big book with your name saying, I got this. So this is another way that they were just trying to keep control on everything, even on what you were eating each and every day. And then everybody had to wear the same things. You could not just go out and get whatever. It was the same clothes that everybody could buy in the whole country. So we all looked very much alike, and we never wore any happy colors. Now that I look back, I realize that everything we had was brown and dark blue and black. That's about all the variety that we had. But that was just normal for us, growing up like that. I was 3 years old, and Mom and Dad, they had to go back to work, and that's when I started kindergarten. In Romania, you start kindergarten when you are 3. And then you go through 3 levels of kindergarten, low, middle, and high level. And then after that, you go into first grade. I had a brother, who I still have a brother, who is 3 years older than me. And so I was 3 years old. He was 6. I was in my first year of kindergarten. He was in first grade. And Mom and Dad, they had to go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning. So we were left home with an alarm clock to wake up on our own as a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. Get ourselves ready, get dressed, brush our teeth, eat our breakfast, and go to school with a key around our neck, crossing a busy road with no stoplight. They just trained us how to do all these things. Now, I don't know about you. I have a 2-year-old at home, and he's not going anywhere on his own when he's 3. Okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. I cannot even imagine looking back, how was that possible as a 3-year-old to be so responsible? But we had to be, because Mom and Dad, they had to work. And it wasn't because Mom and Dad were neglectful of us. It was because that's how everybody did it. That's how everybody survived. That was the only way. And that was normal for everybody. Now, growing up like that, obviously we became independent really, really fast. Our job was to get up with no alarm clock, which is really hard to do when you're in high school, I'm pretty sure, right? As a 3-year-old, we had to do it. And then when we came home, we were responsible for eating our lunch that Mom and Dad prepared for us, and it was in the fridge, and then do our homework. And then the easiest part, we had to behave until they came home, right? Well, that's not hard, you would think. Well, one of those days that we came home from school, I was 7 years old, my brother was 10. We came home from school, we did our homework, we ate our lunch, we did everything we were supposed to do. So we're just kind of looking around in the house, trying to find something to do. And as we were looking around, we had an area rug in our living room. And we realized that there was something underneath the area rug. So you know how kids we are, right? We had to pull it up to see what's underneath there. And we realized that one of the wood tiles of our wooden floor was loose. So we picked at it, and that tile came up, and then the next tile came up, and then the next tile came up. And before we knew it, there was a little hole in the floor of our house. And in that hole that day, when I was 7 years old, we found the Bible. Now, we have never seen a Bible before. We didn't know what a Bible was. As far as we were concerned, it was just another book in our house. And we were so excited. Now, we could not afford electricity. After 7 o'clock, it was lights out at our house. We could not afford it. Many times there wasn't electricity, but it didn't matter if there was or not. We could not afford it. So it was lights out. So my brother and I, we really didn't want to go to sleep at 7 o'clock. So what we would do, we would take a blanket and gather under a blanket with a book, and we would read each other with a flashlight. That was our big mischievous behavior at night. And so that was our favorite thing to do, to read to each other. We had only 4 or 5 books in the whole house, so we knew all our books inside out. So that day, when we found this book, we were so excited. We were thinking, we have a new book in the house, and we never knew about it. How cool is this? Now try to imagine just for a second that you take the Bible in your hands and you do not know that it's God's living, breathing word, or you know it's just a storybook. And we started from the very beginning. And if you start the Bible reading from the very beginning, there is quite a few exciting stories starting off. Would you agree with me? I mean, there's some exciting stuff happening, the creation and Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. I remember clearly that day when Mom and Dad came home, we ran up to the door and we were so excited. We were babbling along and telling them about Noah. So we were way past Noah. And we were just so excited. And Mom and Dad, when they came home, for some reason they were not so excited. And Dad got this really serious look on his face. You know when you guys are in trouble with your parents? When they have that look and you just know it? Well, that's the look that we got. And we knew that we were in trouble. And Dad told us to put this Bible back where we found it. Tuck it back in. Do not ever take it out again. And do not tell anybody what we have found in our house. Now, my dad knew that if anybody was to find out that we were harboring a Bible in our home, we could be shot. Our whole family could disappear and nobody ever know where we were. So this was serious stuff. We did not speak another word in our house that night. So we knew that Dad was really serious about this. But you know how somebody tells you not to do something? And then it becomes just a little more exciting? Well, the next day we came home from school, and we did everything we were supposed to do. We kept the order right. We did our homework, we ate our lunch, but then we could hardly wait to get this book out. Now, we lived on the 4th floor of a flat apartment building, and my parents, they were coming home from work with a bus that was going by schedule, and we could see them walking from the bus station from our 4th floor apartment. So we had time to hide all kinds of things. So we were safe. We played this game very safely. So we could hardly wait, guys, to go home and take this book out and just see what happens next and what happens next. Because to us, this was such an exciting book without even knowing that it was God's word. And so as we were reading and we were just getting more and more excited, in my 5th grade year, we've been doing this for a very, very long time. Now, I have to be honest with you. Sometimes when we got to the genealogies, we got really confused. We were like, what is going on here? But then we just kind of got past those, and we kept on reading and waiting until the excitement builds up again. In my 5th grade year, one of my classmates came up to me, and he said to me, you know, Izabella, I am going to share with you a secret. Now, his secret was that he was going to a church, and he wanted to invite me to go with him. Now, I have never heard of churches before. I didn't know what churches were or what people did there. I had no clue, but I thought to myself, oh, if he's going in secret, that sounds like fun. So I wanted to go. So I went home and I asked Dad, can I go to church in secret? So guess what my dad said? I give you one guess. No. And it was a pretty serious no. My dad was not about to budge about that. So I went back to my classmate and I told him, well, my dad is not so excited about the idea. And so this classmate of mine then started telling me that his dad wasn't so excited about that idea either at first, but then they found out all these details about this church. Well, the details about this church were that this church was just about a mile down the road from the school where we were going, and it was looking just like a little house from the outside. It didn't look anything like a church. We actually went back to visit it last year, and it still looks the same. But on the inside, it was just a little bit different. And they were going there Saturday nights after dark by schedule. That meant that everybody who signed up to go would get a schedule, and you would have to go by that schedule. If it said 8:05, you had to go at 8:05. If it said 8:10, you had to go at 8:10. Because what they were trying to avoid is for the outside world to not realize that there's something going on in this place. So people would not come at the same time. Well, I thought that was pretty cool. So I went home and I asked my dad again and again and again and again if I can go. And I pulled that one card on him that only we women can do really well. I started nagging. I started nagging and nagging for so long that finally my dad, he just wanted me probably out of his hair. And he finally told me I could go to this place if my brother goes with me. And so this is how my brother and I, in my 5th grade year, ended up going to this little underground church a mile down the road Saturday nights after dark by schedule. Now, this church gathering was just for kids. So when we got there, the pastor was sitting in a chair, and we kind of just sat around, and he would read to us from a children's Bible book. I remember to this day it was big and orange hardcover book. And so he would read to us, and then he would ask us what were questions. And that was it. They couldn't do anything else. Because what the government did, every community had spies that were implemented in there. And so if a family was trained to be spies, their kids were also trained to be spies. And those were the kids that they would send to this type of places to make sure that they kept a close eye on what was going on. And what they were trying to keep an eye on is to make sure that these pastors are not doing anything that will put God in higher authority than himself. And so these pastors, they couldn't share the gospel. They couldn't tell us that this is more than just a story. All they could do and hope that they would just read to us, and hoping that we will understand on our own that this is more than just a story. But for us at that point, it was just exciting to be in a place where we could hear stories, because we love stories, and we'd just hang out with this group and go there every Saturday. And we loved it. But one of those Saturdays when I was there, the pastor is reading a story, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I know this story from somewhere. So I raised my hand. I was one of those kids at school that I had the good questions, bad questions, annoying questions, all the questions. I'm a teacher today, don't like those type of kids, but I was one of them. So I raised my hand and I said, I have this book in my house. Now that was not exactly the best thing to say in Romania. So the pastor just gently pulled me to the side at the end, and he said, well, Izabella, I'm really excited for you, but you really need to be a little more quiet about how to just blur these things out to everybody. And so he encouraged me to read this book if I have it. But he also encouraged me to be very, very careful who I share that information with. Now, you need to understand that the pastor was always telling us that this is the best book in the world that I'm reading you from. This is the best book in the world I'm reading you from. So what that translated into my mind was that I have the best book in the world in my house. Now, that's pretty cool. So I thought, well, this cannot be topped. So we were even more excited now, my brother and I, to go home and keep on reading and keep on seeing what's going on in this book. Well, I was about 11 years old, and I was reading at home in Romans 12. And if you know what Romans 12 is talking about, the very first verses is talking about how we should not be so well adjusted to our culture that we fit into it without even thinking, that our minds should be transformed. And so when I was reading this, I thought to myself, something is wrong with this picture. So I went to church that Saturday, raised my hand. Pastors knows me by then, pulls me to the side at the end because I had always the interesting questions for him. So I looked at him and I said, well, did you know what Romans 12 says? I'm pretty sure I had a very studious look on my face. And I told him, I said, did you know that this best book in the world says that we should not be hiding it? Then why are we hiding it? And so the pastor that day, he gave me a good pat on the back, and he said, you know, you have a pretty good head on those shoulders, but you really need to be a little more quiet about these things. So when I was 13 years old, 7th grade, I'm fast-forwarding in my life because you guys want to go home tonight, right? 7th grade, in October, started to get really, really cold. And I don't like cold, not to this day. I can live in the heat of August in North Carolina, no problem. But cold, not my friend. And so in Romania, if it starts getting cold in October, that means that we are looking at a winter of 6 to 7 months. That's a long winter. And it gets dark around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's really no fun. So in my 13-year-old mind, I was thinking, well, the only way we are going to have fun this season is if it snows. So I had this groundbreaking idea because I've been reading so much about prayer, but then I never heard anybody pray. I never knew how to do that. So I was thinking, how about I go and ask the pastor to pray for snow? So I went to church that Saturday, and I told him, I said, do you think that we can pray for snow so we can have some fun this winter? Because I really don't see any fun on the horizon if it doesn't snow, because we are stuck in the house. But if it snows, then we can go outside. Well, that day my pastor told me, you know, if you're going to ask anybody for snow, God is the only one who can give it to you. But I didn't know how to do it. So I asked him. I said, how do I do this? How do I pray? I have never heard anybody pray. I don't know how to do it. I read about it. I heard about it. But I don't know how to do it. So this is how simply my pastor told me how to pray. Now, if you are sitting here and you never prayed on your own, this is how simple this is. My pastor told me, you know, Izabella, you just sit down and you talk to God like He is your best friend sitting right there next to you. You tell Him what's on your heart, what's on your mind, and He's going to answer. That's it. That's how simply He put it. Now, that's pretty easy, isn't it? Anybody can do that, right? And so I thought, well, that doesn't sound so hard. But then he said one big keyword that caught my attention. And that keyword was always. He said, God always answers prayers. Now, let me just tell you what that translated into my 13-year-old mind. I was thinking, well, if this is how easy it is to pray, I can do this. This doesn't sound very hard. And if God always answers prayers, in my mind that equals I'm going to have my snow. And that's pretty good logic. You have to give that to me, right? So I was thinking, well, I can go home. I can pray, not a problem. And I thought, I'm going to have my snow like the next day. Well, the next day I woke up and there was no snow. And I was quite disappointed. And there was no snow the next month or two. And so early in December, 2 months after I started praying for snow, I went back to church and I looked in the eyes of this pastor and I told him, did you know that this prayer thing doesn't work? And the pastor looked at me that day and he taught me probably the most valuable lessons that I have learned. And he told me, you know, Izabella, I tell you what. God answers prayers. He always did. He always will. That doesn't change. But sometimes God answers prayers in ways that you and I cannot even imagine. So you keep your eyes open and you keep watching. God will answer, I promise you. And then so I thought, okay, well, I can do this a little while longer, but He better give me my snow. And we were so close to Christmas. This was already December, and I wanted a white Christmas so bad. And then December 22nd came by. And December 22nd was the day when the revolution broke out in Romania. And if you know anything about the revolution, 400,000 people were shot to death on the streets in a matter of hours because they stood up and they said, we don't want to live like this anymore. Our children have no future. There's nothing to look forward to. And we don't want to live this life this way. And so those were some really, really sad days in Romania. We have lost a lot of people. We lost some friends. We lost people that we knew. Our family was safe, praise the Lord. But 400,000 people died. And in the midst of all of that, my biggest problem inside was still that it did not snow. And then Christmas came, and there was no snow. And I was kind of done. I really thought, well, sure enough, this is just a storybook. There is no way that all this talking that I have been doing is getting me anywhere. And the day after Christmas, people started running on the streets. Now in Romania, when people ran on the streets, this is what we were trained to do as kids. We had to put our shoes on as fast as we could and run as fast as we could, get there. Because if people were running, they were running to the grocery store. So you would get there as fast as you could, get in line, then you ask the question, what was there? It didn't matter. Whatever they had, you didn't have it. So it really didn't matter. We just were trained to get there as fast as we could, and then mom and dad would catch up with us later on, bringing the money. And so as people started running on the streets, we start running after them as fast as we can. The longest line we ever stayed in, by the way, people love to hear this for some reason, 27 hours for bananas. We heard word that bananas were coming, so we planted ourselves in line and we stayed there, and 27 hours later, those trucks arrived and they got the bananas off of them, and we got 4 bananas for the 4 of us. That's like getting in line now and you get your bananas tomorrow at 10 o'clock p.m. And so we would stand there, but some of you might be looking at me and feeling sorry for me. We had fun in these lines. We made it fun. I think that's the only way that we survived. And so we stood there 27 hours. Then we got 4 bananas for the 4 of us, and they were as green as they could be. Now, I have never seen a banana before. I had no clue they were not supposed to be green. So when we got home, Mom and Dad told us we could not have the bananas. Now, let me just tell you this. When you stay 27 hours in line for something and somebody tells you you can't have it, that is not a good day. That was not a good day in our house. Well, Mom and Dad somehow knew that these bananas are not supposed to be green, that they're supposed to be yellow for some reason. So they had this crazy idea that if they're going to put it on the top of the cupboard, then they're going to turn yellow on their own. Like, who heard of that, right? And so my brother and I, we spent the next 2 days standing on 2 chairs watching these bananas turning yellow. And those were some long days. So if you ever have a really long day at school or at work, just think of me and my bananas. Your day is going to just fly by. No problem. But that day, the day after Christmas, as people were running on the streets and we put our shoes on as fast as we could and we start running, because every time when people were running, guys, we just got excited. We were not thinking about the lines that we have to stay in. We were thinking about the stuff that we might get. And so as they were running, we were so excited and started running. But then they passed by the grocery store and we are thinking, have they lost their good minds? Where are they going? We belong to a grocery store. Remember, you can't go to just any grocery store. And so as they are passing by and keep on running and they still look excited, we just keep on running after them because we don't want to miss out whatever is going on. So we keep on running, and people are starting coming from all sides, and they're gathering in the middle of our little town where we are. And as they were gathering there, people were so excited, and they kept on saying, trucks are coming, trucks are coming, trucks are coming. And so as soon as we got there, trucks started to pull in pretty much as soon as we were there. And as these trucks start to pull in, some people got so scared, they start leaving in panic because they were saying, what if they open these trucks and they start shooting at us? All that happened just 2 days ago. So people were very, very fearful. They didn't trust anybody. And so as we were standing there, we just kind of got washed into the crowd that was excited, and we ended up staying. And these trucks pull in, and people jumped off the trucks, and they opened the backs of the trucks, and nobody was shooting, but these trucks were filled with colorful, beautiful boxes. And they started giving out these boxes to everybody who was there. And I remember the first thought in my mind, there's no way that somebody's going to give me something for nothing. There is no way, because that does not happen, not in Romania. And so this lady came up to me, and she hands me a box. And I asked her, I'm one of those, remember? I have to ask. I told her, what do I need to do? I wanted to make sure I'm not signing up for something I don't want to do later. And so this lady told me nothing. You don't have to do anything. You just take it. It's yours. And then she asked me if I had any prayer requests. Now, that was not something that people would ask you very often in Romania. And I was thinking, this lady must know something about me. But something it was even more important to me. So that was my light bulb moment. And I thought, if you would please pray with me for snow. And you know what this sweet lady did? She knelt down to come down to my level. She didn't give me a speech about how I should be praying for all the people who are hurting, who have lost loved ones, who are mourning, who are in the hospital fighting for their lives because being shot. What she did, she took my silly little prayer request seriously, and she knelt down and came down to my level, and she prayed with me right there and then for snow. And then she gave me a big hug, and she went on to give out more boxes. I have never seen her again. So here I am left with my box in my hand. And I'm opening this box, looking around. Everybody around me is excited, opening it up. I'm thinking to myself, for sure this is okay. And as I'm opening my box, there were many, many things in my box that to this day I don't remember everything that was there, but there is one thing that I never forgot, and I kept all these years, and I keep it as a reminder of who God is in my life. What I got in my box was this. And I looked at it and had no clue what it was. And I was holding it just like this, looking at it, and a little boy was passing me by, and he took my hand with his hand, and he just said, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it. And all I knew is that I looked down in that moment, 30 seconds after somebody was kneeling right there and praying with me for snow, and I looked down and all I could see was snow. Now I wanted the snow to fall from the sky so bad. But in that moment, I thought about my pastor's words, what he said earlier in December, when I went to him and I looked in his eye and I said that this prayer thing doesn't work. When he told me, you know, God always answers prayers, just sometimes he doesn't answer it in ways that you and I imagine it. And all he told me to do is to keep my eyes open and God will answer. And there it was. There was my answer. Now what this meant to me in that moment was simply the fact that I understood that this God that I have been reading about and having so much head knowledge about, he just moved a few inches from right up here down to my heart, because I understood that he's a God who cares about foolish little Izabella and her little desires enough to say, let me show myself real to you. And I understood in that moment that this God is bigger than I ever thought. And in that moment, I have decided that I'm going to live my life for him. I'm going to dedicate my life for him, whatever it takes. It was still a long road for me to completely understand what it means to have a relationship with this God that I have been reading about. But that was my moment when I could understand that, when I took my very first huge step towards saying, I am done doubting. Now, some of you are looking at me like crazy because you have packed shoe boxes before, and you know you can't put these in there, right? You cannot put snow globes in there anymore because they can break and the water can come out and destroy the rest of the box. So don't get too excited about snow globes and go out there and buy 20 of them. Because whatever you get, God is going to use it, because I believe that God is a God who can orchestrate the circumstance of one single little shoebox in a way that it ends up just in the right hands. Because I believe with my entire heart that if that little boy next to me who shook that snow globe for me would have gotten this, it would have meant probably nothing to him. But it was life-changing to me. Now in 2002, I came to the States. And in 2004, I ended up in North Carolina, Durham, teaching at Gorman Christian Academy. So here I am at Gorman Christian Academy in 2004, many years after all this happened. And as I am at Gorman Christian Academy, the principal at the time came to the music teacher and gave her a brochure and said, I would like our school to be involved with this ministry. Would you please get the kids excited? Let's kick it off in chapel. Music teacher happens to be my best friend, came to me, said, hey, Izabella, do you want to help me out with this? Let's go ahead and do something exciting, something fun for the kids. I don't know what it is. Let's read it. Well, it was an Operation Christmas Child brochure. So we are sitting down, the music teacher, Terry, and myself, and we are sitting down, we are opening this brochure, and we are reading what this ministry does and what it is all about. And with tears streaming down my face, I looked at the music teacher and I said, Terry, and I caught one of these. So it wasn't until 2004 that I actually realized that it was Operation Christmas Child Ministry that changed my life in that one moment when I was 13 years old. So needless to say, I didn't get just a little excited. I got like a lot excited. So our itty-bitty little school, we had only 90 students in 2004, okay? Not a very big school, 90 students. So in 2004, we did all kinds of crazy things, okay? I did a very crazy purchase. I spent $80 on a Christmas tree costume, okay? Now, I made a very shiny, beautiful little cape for this Christmas tree costume that says Super Christmas Woman. So Super Christmas Woman happens to come by every year at Gorman Christian Academy. She looks a whole lot like me and talks a whole lot like me. And so she does all kinds of crazy things to get everybody excited about what God is doing through this ministry. And so there's some crazy, undignified stuff going on there. But in 2004, having 90 students, we didn't really set a goal. We didn't know how to do this whole OCC thing. Our itty bitty little school of 90 students packed 100 shoeboxes. Now that's excitement. That's what I'm talking about. And we were just blown away. We thought maybe 15, 20 boxes would be nice. 100 shoeboxes they packed. So the next year we thought, how about we set a goal? So the next year, in 2005, we set a goal for 180 shoeboxes. How about everybody is packing 2 shoeboxes? So here we were, 180 shoeboxes, our goal. And our itty bitty little school packed 250 shoeboxes. So the next year, in 2006, we thought, well, where do you go from there? So we set our goal for 251. And God said, really? That's all you think I can do? And we packed 486. So in 2007, we said, okay, Satan, we are done with you. Now we know how you work. We are done with you. We set our goal for the big 500. So here we were with 500 goal in 2007, and we packed 680 shoeboxes. So the next year, in 2008, we set our goal for 681. Shame on us. And God allowed us to pack 852. In 2009, we had to go for our big number. We set our goal for 1,000 shoeboxes. Now, our school has grown a little bit. By 2009, we had 113 students. So we said, well, everybody needs to pack only 10 boxes, right? That's 1,000 right there. Well, they packed 1,158. And last year, in 2010, we set our goal for 1,234, because the number was so big that we thought, well, kindergarten needs to remember when they go home to tell mom and dad. So we figured 1, 2, 3, 4, they remember that. And we packed 1,463 shoeboxes. But not just that. I think what is going on is that in this place, these kids are understanding the hearts of missions. They're going home. I hear stories from parents all the time. My child came home today, and he's harassing me to get more chores so that he can get another dollar, so he can go to the dollar store to get another toy to put it in that box. Now, to me, that tells me that these kids are getting what missions is all about, that they're understanding that these are not just boxes, these are gospel opportunities. We actually don't call them shoe boxes anymore. We call them go boxes, gospel opportunity. Now, this year, we set our goal for 1,500. And you guys need to be praying for us. God is doing amazing things, but I don't know how it happens every year, because I look around at the school building. I was just looking around today. And I get fearful. How is this going to happen? But God does what only He can. I call it God math. Now, last year, as we were in our sanctuary dedicating 1,463 shoe boxes, 120 kids laying hands on the boxes, praying for every single one of them, that God will use them in ways that only He can. Something even more exciting happened after that. My husband and myself and my little one, who was only 1 year old at the time, we got on an airplane and we had the chance to go back to Romania and distribute shoeboxes. So here we were back in Romania, in my home country, distributing shoeboxes. We participated in 2 distributions. The very first one was in a village that was extremely underprivileged. Their houses are still made of dirt and manure. That's how poor they are. And so we were meeting. It was minus 19 degrees outside. And as we were going there, Celsius, may I say. As we were going there, they called us and they said, you know, guys, if you don't want to come, we really understand we cannot afford heating this building. We can afford to heat 1 room, but the whole village is here. And so we went there and we packed in all the boxes, and all of us and the whole village in that one itty bitty little room. We were very cozy. And we were looking around, and I was looking at this one little girl that I was talking to. And I recognized myself in her eyes. And that's when I realized this is the reason why we do it. When I looked in those little eyes, and her eyes were saying the same thing that I was thinking as a 13-year-old. I cannot believe that I'm getting something for nothing. I looked at this little girl, and I asked her, I said, what is the desire of your heart? What is that you would like to get? And she said just one word. She said just something pink. A little girl who had nothing pink, and she just wanted something pink. And so what we do at distributions, it's kind of cruel actually, because we line them up from youngest to oldest, and we give them a shoebox, but not just a shoebox, also a gospel in their own language on the top of the shoebox. We hug them, we love on them a little bit, then we move on and we give the next child. But we do not allow them to open those boxes until everybody gets the boxes. So here is the smallest little one gets the box and has to wait 50 minutes until everybody else gets their boxes. And they're just standing there, almost shaking, not knowing what to do, because they want to open that box so badly. But guess what they do for 45 minutes, 50 minutes that it takes maybe sometimes? They read the gospel. They read the entire gospel. So afterwards, we have the chance to sit down with them and talk with them and make sure that they understand. We have the chance to sit down with them and pray with them. What a privilege that is. We have a chance to talk to them and make sure that they understand. That maybe we can give them some guidelines on how to live their lives from now on, not just pray with them and leave them high and hanging. But also, we have the chance to connect them with the local pastors who are right there, who later on are going to do a 12-week discipleship program that they are starting to do worldwide with OCC this year. So when you send your shoebox this year, it's not just a shoebox. They get a gospel with that shoebox in their own language. And they also get a 12-week discipleship program that is going to allow them to know how to live their lives for Christ. And not just that, the very last lesson is challenging them how to share their faith with others. And so they are challenged to write down 9 names. 9 names of people, family members, friends that they know who need Christ. And they go and share the gospel with those 9 people. So if you think about that one box that you might pack, multiply that 10 times. 9 times plus the child. Isn't that amazing? So as we are sitting there and all these little kiddos, they get their boxes and they're so excited. And this little girl, 45 minutes later, that I was just talking to, she's opening her box. Everything in her box was pink. I don't mean just one little thing. Everything was pink. What really got me, you know when you buy the crayons and they're yellow and green? These were Disney princess crayons, all pink. Little pink flamingo erasers on top of pink pencils. Everything was pink in this box. Everything. I am pretty sure that one little girl packed it somewhere here who loves pink. And this little girl was so excited. One little boy was telling us that he wanted to be an artist. And everybody was making fun of him. So he was kind of crying a little bit and telling us how everybody just makes fun of him every single day. Now you need to understand that in a village like this that they were living in, school was going up to 5th grade and that was it. They never had the chance to go to middle school, graduate from high school, or go to college ever in their lives. After 5th grade, they go back and work on their parents' field and they just try to survive. That's what they do. And in a village like that, you do not become an artist. And so this little boy was telling us that all he wants to do was just draw and paint. That's the desire of his heart. And when he opened his shoebox, in his shoebox, he found nothing else but art supplies. There was no toothpaste, no toothbrush, no soap, no teddy bear, no socks, just art supplies. And I don't know about you, but when I see a box like that coming into my church, I think, that poor kid needs some more stuff. But what I need to understand is, if God puts something on your heart, then He will use it. If you be faithful and you pray for what God wants you to put in that box, He will use it in ways that only He can. All we can do is just be obedient to His calling and just say, here I am, Lord, use me and use my, whatever I have, whatever you have given me. And He takes care of the rest. I go every year to Charlotte, to the processing center. And what we do there, we look inside those boxes and we inspect them. We play inspector. And we take out all the illegal items. But Operation Christmas Child is very big on keeping the integrity of a box. Meaning if you put something in that box, unless it's illegal, we don't take it out. We don't replace it. Because they really believe that if you prayed for something and that's what God put on your heart, God has a plan for it. And we have seen that over and over and over again right there in front of our eyes. One little girl was telling us at this distribution that she just wanted to have a dog. She was very scared at night. She lived in one of those dirt and manure houses, no window on her room at all. And she was so scared because it would get pitch dark at night. And she would tell us that she's so scared at night, she just wants a friend to be right there with her that can sleep with her. And then she told us that she had 7 dogs, but her mom wouldn't let them in the house. Well, it turns out they were stray dogs following her down the street. Of course, her mom wouldn't let them in the house. Well, when she opened her shoebox, she found a little stuffed dog in her box. Not a teddy bear, not a ducky, not a dinosaur, but a dog. And she went up to us, and she was so excited. She was telling us, look, I have a little friend now that I can take in my house, and this little friend can sleep with me every night, and I won't be scared anymore. The second day, we went to an orphanage, and it was a special needs orphanage, and these kids, they have nobody to hug them, nobody to tell them that they're worth anything, to tuck them in at night, to tell them that they love them. They're so hungry. Once we stepped in that place, they were hugging us from all over the place. My little 1-year-old became an art, like a museum item or something. They were surrounding him, and they were just so excited that people would come in and love on them for just an hour and a half. That's all we were there, an hour and a half. But we are here in this orphanage, and we are opening up the big cartons to take out the little boxes to give out to the kids. 2 of the boxes that my husband and I packed in our own kitchen were in that box. Now, I wrapped 50 boxes in the same wrapping paper. I would recognize it in my sleep. So I saw these boxes when they were pulling them out, and I looked at my husband and I said, Joel, these are our boxes that we packed. And we always put a letter and a picture in our box. And so my husband gave one of the boxes to one of the little boys, and I gave one to one of the little girls. And this little girl, she's opening her shoebox, and the letter and the picture are right there on the top. She takes that picture, and then she's looking at it, and she's looking at us, and looking at the picture, and looking at us. So we went up to her and gave her a big hug. This girl kissed that picture at least 50 times before we left. She gave us hugs over and over and over again, and she told us that we were her best friends for life. We were there with her for an hour and a half. She ran back to her room before we left. 20 beds in one itty-bitty little room. She put this picture up above her bed. This was the only picture she has ever had of anybody that cared for her in any way. So you just never know what is that one thing that is going to be in your box, that is going to bring hope in somebody's life, that is going to change somebody's life for better, that is going to allow somebody's dreams to come true, like the little artist boy. You just never know what that one thing is. One lady came up to me 2 weeks ago at a church. I was speaking to him, and she told me, she said, you know, God just put it on my heart this year to buy pot holders. And I thought that's just the craziest idea. Who puts pot holders in their shoe boxes? And so as we were talking, you know, she finally, when she was leaving, she said, you know what? I'm going right now to the store and getting some pot holders because God will use them somehow. I don't know how, but I'm going to get some pot holders. You just never know what that one thing is. I'm going to share with you one last story very quick. It was just a funny little story. In the orphanage, we are standing there, and a little boy comes up to me, and he tries to give me his teddy bear that he found in his box. And he tries to shove it in my hand, and he really looks like he doesn't want it. He doesn't like this teddy bear. So I start talking to him. He didn't know I was speaking Romanian. I start talking to him in Romanian and ask him, what's wrong with the teddy bear? And he tells me he doesn't want the teddy bear. He wants a phone instead. So I thought, all right. Then I see another little boy in the corner of the room going around, talking as loud as he can, having the time of his life, looking all cool. And I look closer, and he's holding a calculator. Now, he found the calculator in his shoebox. He thought it was a phone. So he's going around looking all cool, talking on his phone to somebody. This little boy saw him, and he is thinking, well, I want to be cool like him. So I don't want this lame little teddy bear. I want a phone instead. Well, we opened every leftover box that we had and looked frantically for calculators. And we couldn't find one. And so we just didn't have the heart to look at this little boy and say, well, look, that's really not a phone. You know, that's a calculator. But we thought they're going to find out one day, but we're not going to be the ones telling them that. But you just never know what is that one thing that maybe is just going to bring just a little joy in somebody's life, just a moment of happiness. But besides all of that, they are getting the gospel. They are getting the biggest hope that we have. And they are getting the discipleship program afterwards, so they know what to do with this hope that hopefully they will find. Every single box that you pack is a gospel opportunity. It is their choice if they are going to accept or deny. We cannot force it on anybody. But we are giving them a choice. We are giving them that opportunity to accept Jesus and to say, I can live my life for you, and I will change my life because of that shoebox that you might have packed somewhere right here in Apex. You just never know. So I pray that you get really excited as you start packing these boxes, as you start going out. But I hope that you remember the most important thing that I believe every single box needs to have, and that's your prayers. Do not pack these boxes without praying, because really that is the power behind all of this. There's a lot of things that have to work together. Operation Christmas Child is a very, very well working engine. But it needs that oil. And the oil for this well working engine is your prayers. That's how it works. God is God and we are not. And He is big enough that He can take our small little things when we make ourselves available and we just say, use our resources however you see fit. And I want to challenge you to step out this year maybe and set for yourself a God-sized goal. I don't know. It doesn't make sense how 100 students can pack 1,463 shoe boxes. It doesn't make any sense. But we decide every year by faith that we're going to set a God-sized goal, not a budget-sized goal. And then we'll see where God takes that and what He's going to do with that. So I want to challenge you to be brave and step out in faith and see where God is taking you. Whatever He's telling you to do, just go for it. There's so many blessings on this side of the box. There's definitely many on the other side. But I am so excited these days. Sometimes I get even more excited packing than when I was receiving it. Because just thinking of the impact that I can make and how God had multiplied that one single little box that one day He put in my hand thousands of times over and over again, I get excited. I get really excited. So I hope that you get excited and you are just going to pack a lot of boxes and be ready to change many, many lives. Thank you so much, guys, for having us. My little one who's not in here, but us. I really enjoyed being here with you all, and I will be here afterwards if you want to come and talk to me. I will be more than happy to talk to you. But thank you so much for having me.